What about caffeine? How do you look at that?
Yeah, so this makes me this is not the most popular suggestion I have, but and it's not the first suggestion I would make either. So lots of people do just fine keeping caffeine in their ketogenic diet, but it is one of those troubleshooting things. So if you've followed a well-constructed, a really well-formulated, nutritious ketogenic diet for say 12, 16 weeks, and you've gotten into good ketosis, but you're still not feeling the way you want, your sleep isn't right, your anxiety level isn't right, you're still feeling anxious or irritable or moody, you might want to look at your caffeine intake. It's also important to look at your caffeine intake if you've had trouble getting into ketosis in the first place, because caffeine raises stress hormone levels, and stress hormone levels raise glucose levels. So, and some people are more sensitive to this effect than others. So, there are quite a few people who can keep coffee or other sources of caffeine in their ketogenic diet, and they get into ketosis beautifully, and they feel great, and they feel fine, and they get the mental health benefits, they get the physical health benefits. Their sleep is good, their mood is good, they're feeling stable and wonderful. There are other people who, and I've seen this a few times in my clinical practice, where they're following a beautifully formulated ketogenic diet, but they're not getting the mental health benefits they were hoping for. And they're actually not even getting into ketosis easily. And I've seen it happen a few times where all we needed to do to bring the ketones up from zero point 0.4, zero point 0.5, zero point 0.6 to 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 was take the caffeine out. And for some people, that's a major obstacle. But again, it's not where I would start, but it's a really useful troubleshooting tip to know. I mean, caffeine it's a drug, and it's a drug that interferes with normal brain and body chemistry. All drugs, whether they're prescription drugs or drugs that are like caffeine and alcohol, which are available to everybody, they are designed to interfere with normal human biology. And so they can work against you. And I really do think it makes sense for people to explore how caffeine is affecting them, because a lot of us drink caffeine every single day for years and years and years, and we just don't even know anymore what it's doing for or against us. And it can be really useful to take the caffeine out of the equation to see, what does it feel like? How are you really doing underneath that caffeine? Do you feel better? Do you feel worse without it? Just experiment and see, what role it's playing in your life. Because once you get into ketosis and you've adapted to a ketogenic diet, so at least 3 or 4 months, you might not need that caffeine to maintain your energy and your focus anymore, because a ketogenic diet is usually very helpful with focus and with productivity and with energy. The very same things most people are using caffeine to achieve. So you would be very surprised. I mean, people become on a ketogenic diet, they often become more sensitive to caffeine and alcohol. And that's because, again, the ketogenic diet duplicates some of the effects of those drugs. The ketogenic diet calms brain chemistry. It improves that balance between glutamate and GABA, these brain chemicals that are affected by caffeine and alcohol. It improves the balance between those chemicals naturally. And so a lot of times people find they lose their interest in alcohol. They don't have cravings for alcohol anymore because they feel naturally calmer and more even. Same thing with caffeine. They wake up, they have good energy. They're already focused. They're getting stuff done. They don't need the caffeine because their brain is working better even without it. So a lot of times people will start to feel to the caffeine or alcohol, they feel more sensitive to it. So their tolerance for alcohol goes down. And I have to warn people about this, that, if you're used to having a couple of glasses of wine every night, pay attention, because even after one glass, you might feel like it's too much. So just to be aware that the ketogenic diet is a powerful metabolic intervention, and it can really change how all of your cells respond to stress, to drugs, to alcohol, cigarettes, caffeine. And you really want to get to know yourself in this new metabolic state, because lots of things are going to change. You just want to keep your eyes open and be aware that you may need to make some other changes to your lifestyle in order to find that peaceful place you're trying to get to.
You went over alcohol a bit, but while we're here, let's go a bit deeper. I would assume, since we're talking about brain health here, in general, alcohol, to give this a good go, you'd want to avoid that. So just fully bring that in. And to me, I don't see how, if somebody, again, wants to give this a good go, they would want to keep that in.
Well, human beings, we're funny creatures. And so, what we know is good for us isn't always the thing that we most want to do. But yes, if you are serious about your mental health, one of the most important things you can do is to kind of clean up that aspect of your lifestyle, remove alcohol, nicotine, marijuana, caffeine, remove these mind-altering substances from your life so that you can actually see what you're really dealing with. How are you really doing underneath those substances? Because otherwise, you're not really going to know. If the reason why you're depressed might have to do with the fact that you're drinking too much, or the reason why you're anxious might be the fact that you have got too much caffeine in your system or you're not getting enough sleep. So if you're serious about it, you will do those things for yourself. And there's a myth out there that red wine is a brain-healthy beverage. Red wine is not a brain-healthy beverage. That is wishful thinking. The reason why we've been told that alcohol is a brain-healthy beverage is because it's long ago, nutrition researchers went to the Mediterranean, saw people drinking lots of red wine with their meals, and they seemed healthier than we're over here in the United States. So they thought, oh, red wine must be good for the brain. Now, that's a big leap in logic. But so they assumed that they jumped to the conclusion that red wine must be part of a healthy diet, when there's actually no evidence for that whatsoever. It's a hypothesis. It's a theory, right? When you look at the science, what the science actually says. Now, first of all, red wine is not used in actual studies of cognitive or mental health. We don't test red wine on people in mental health studies. And there are many reasons why we don't do that. Not the least of which is that the amount of red wine that you would need to to give to the volunteers in these studies to achieve even the lowest dose of the active ingredient in red wine that they think is responsible for its magical benefits, called resveratrol. The amount of red wine you have to give people to reach the therapeutic dose of that molecule is 500 bottles per day. So 500 bottles per day of red wine. And so a single bottle of red wine contains 1 milligram of resveratrol, which is the antioxidant in red wine. And that lonely milligram of resveratrol is swimming in a sea of alcohol, which is a powerful promoter of oxidative stress, which is the very thing you're trying to fight with the resveratrol. So you really don't stand a chance. And these studies have not ever found any conclusive results in terms of a benefit of this molecule on brain health. So it's really all risk and no benefit. Alcohol is for many people, an addictive substance. It's a powerful promoter of oxidative stress, which we know drives a lot of mental health problems. And it is a toxin. It's treated as a toxin by the liver. The liver, when it sees alcohol coming through, it drops everything else it's doing until it gets rid of that alcohol. So it gives it something called oxidative priority, gets rid of the alcohol. It stops burning fat. It stops making glucose. It stops doing all the other things it's supposed to be doing because it sees that its number one priority at that point in time is to get rid of that alcohol as fast as it possibly can, because it is very dangerous substance to have in the body. So if you're serious about your mental health, this is a very powerful lever you can pull is to remove the alcohol from your life or keep it to a minimum. And if you found it addictive, to remove it entirely.
Since you made it to the end of this clip, I know you're going to love the full episode. Click here to watch. I'll see you over there.
What if your healthy diet has been the problem all along? That's what a lot of people are discovering. There's real power in feeding your brain properly and letting it try to